Welcome to another Art City Tattoo class. My name is Chris Sage, and today we're going to cover all the different design principles that you need to consider before you compose a tattoo for your client.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you are having this communication with the customer, do you prefer to do it on the phone or over text? Because sometimes, it's better to communicate with the customer. You call them or send them a message, or how do you do that?
It's very organic. Some people are very good communicators, and they'll hit you up over text and or DM, and they'll say, "Hey, look, I want this. This is the placement that I wanted. How much is it? When are you available?" And they're very organized. They know what they want exactly. Those people, sometimes I even book them without even talking to them. I'll just take the deposit and I'm like, I know. So it really just depends on how you feel about it, and if you feel like you need more information, or if you feel like you need to talk to the person further. You know what I mean? Some people, I have them come in person because they prefer it. They live close by. They're like, hey, look, I drive by the studio all the time. When can I come in? Sure, come in whenever. Some people, I do a video call. Some people, I do a phone call. It just depends. And you can kind of get that feeling from people, as you speak to them. Some people are just a little bit more difficult to get the message across. And sometimes it might just be a little bit more difficult for you to understand what they actually want. Some artists are very standard in the way they do things. Like, they want to get the booking requested through an email, and you have to fill out a form, and then the form, it tells exactly. I've done all of those things, and for me, what works is just being organic. You can DM me, you can send me a text, whatever. We'll talk, we can do a phone call. It just depends. So it's very varying from person to person. As long as you get to the bottom of what they want, and you feel like they feel comfortable with you, then that's all that you need. And that could be done over text, phone call, doesn't matter. So, and then when you're, another thing is the difference between referencing and inspiration. So inspiration is when you look at a piece of art that you may want to emulate somehow, the style. This is up, right? Okay. So this, by the way, this is something really important that I think is really important, which is on Instagram, which for me is the platform for tattooing. It's where all tattoo artists are, and it's where everybody displays their artwork. Every time I see a really good tattoo, I save it, and I save it to an album. I have different albums. This one's labeled tattoos. And this is where I save all the tattoos that I found at the highest level right now, up to date. They're breaking the mold somehow. They're really cool. I find something interesting about it, and I can use as inspiration. You'll never see me copying any of these tattoos, because that's what a reference is for. So a reference is so let's say you want to design a tattoo like this one right here, and then you find a face or line, and then you find a skull, and you find some filigree, and you find some roses, and you put all those things together, and you create your own design. That's your reference. That's what you're gonna copy. You're going to be looking at this reference, you're going to be stenciling this reference, and that's what you're going to be copying. Inspiration is looking at this design and being inspired by this design and creating something similar. But you never want to copy inspiration. You want to be inspired by inspiration, and you want to copy reference. So you make your own reference, or you get it off of the internet, and then you can take your artistic license with it. You can do your own thing with it. But you never want to do that using someone else's tattoos. I feel okay doing it using other people's artwork if it falls in a different genre of art. So if it's a concept art, or if it's a digital painting, or if it's a photography or something like that, because you're taking that and you're creating something new with it, essentially. Even if you're copying it to a different medium, But taking a tattoo and copying it to the same medium, it's a big no. And it's very disregarded in the industry, and you get a lot of disrespect and from other artists. And also it's not fair for your client because they're getting something that's not unique. They're getting something that someone else has on their body as well. And it's also disrespectful for the artist who created it, for the client who already has it. So that's a big no. You never want to do that. But, you know, if I find like a really cool old man and some hands and I want to create something that looks like that, why not? As long as I'm finding my own reference and creating my own design. Even if it kind of looked like this, it'll never be exactly that. And that's okay. At least for me, I find that morally, ethically okay. Also, another thing that you want to understand from your clients is that it's very important to know your client's vision for their body for the future. Because a lot of clients, and a lot of them they're not conscious of this, especially when they're younger. They might want a tattoo, for example, on their forearm, and they take, no, eventually I want to get a sleeve. You're like, well, if you want to get a sleeve, it's not a good idea to get a tattoo here because it's going to be in the way. Because there's a big difference between a sleeve that's been kind of pieced together over the years to something that has been designed cohesively as one piece. And you can, say that, they're on a budget and they can't do the whole sleeve at once. You should still, if their vision is to get a sleeve, you should consider like, hey, let's design the whole thing. And you can come once a year, you can come once every 6 months or whatever it may be. And we can do it little by little, but at least it's going to be one cohesive thing. So just knowing their vision is important. Maybe they just like separate pieces and they want to get a sleeve done, by separate little pieces like that, like that traditional style of tattooing that people get separate pieces or those little black and gray small pieces that people get individually. And when they all fill the whole sleeve, it looks really cool. But knowing what they want, or at least kind of direct them in that way and help them think in that sense, in that direction, will really help them out, because in my experience, I've gotten a lot of clients that they want to get, for example, now they want to get a sleeve and they have all these tattoos that are in the way. And then they have to either end up covering the tattoo that they already have, or now you're forced to like work your way around what they have, and it limits your creativity, and ultimately it's not going to be the best result for them. So super important. And also knowing, are you going to draw the design, or are you going to put it together on Procreate or Photoshop or something like that, or a combination of both? Obviously this depends on each artist's personal skills, right? Because not everybody has the same skills. Most artists, tattoo artists, they don't know how to draw, actually. There's a big difference between drawing and painting or rendering, right? Most people, and I guess the best analogy I can give you for this is like, imagine that we're building a house, right? We're building a house. And you get a blueprint and you build a house, right? That's the person who can paint. That's the person who can render, right? They get a blueprint and then they build a house, but they don't know how to make the blueprint, right? So the person that can draw is the person that can make the blueprint. And, if they can paint, they can build a house as well. So, being able to draw and being able to paint, you're going to be in an advantage in an industry where most people don't know how to draw, because you can be more creative. You can take, maybe a drawing that it's not complete, and you can adapt it, and you can, do different things to it that most people in this industry, they would just take something off of the internet and they copy it as is because they don't know what else to do to it. So it's very, very important for you guys to develop the skills of being able to draw. And we're going to cover that in another class as well. We're going to cover form and how to render, how to draw a 3-dimensional form in a 2-dimensional space, which is whether it's a digital screen or a piece of paper. And that will give you an advantage. That will give you an advantage over tattoo artists that don't know how to do that. So having those skills is really important. But let's assume that you don't have those skills and you don't know how to draw, you just know how to, take images and Photoshop them together into like a really cool design, that's okay too. A lot of artists do that and they're very successful doing it and they make a lot of money doing that. So that's fine. And because of that, today we're going to create a design using that. We're not going to draw. We're just going to take different images and we're going to put them together into one cohesive design. And we're going to do that together. So we're going to first brainstorm some ideas, placement, meaning, and we're going to practice creating a design together. And we can also pick from this album, we can actually get some inspiration so that we have a sense of direction where we're going to go with the design, and then we're going to create a design based on that. Okay, so the creative process can happen in any way, and there's not one or two or three ways. There's many ways to do it, but generally speaking, there's two different ways that I create my designs. So the first way, obviously, after I've gathered all the information from my client, I spoke to them and I know what they want, there's usually two different ways that I create a design. The first way is that I just gather a bunch of references off the internet. So let's say they want, let's say they want a dinosaur, right? They say that, they want the Jurassic Park theme tattoo. So what I do is I go online and I start searching in different places to find really good images. And then I find the images that align with the idea that they have, and I find that they're the best quality and they're actually up to my liking as well, right? Because you might like, according to your own aesthetical taste, you might like one image over another, right? So this is the moment where you start kind of gathering different images, and then once you find the best quality images, meaning, they're not too pixelated and, they're something that you can actually work with. So I gather all these different images, and then I have the template of the person's body part, and then I just kind of start putting them together. Kind of very intuitively. I'm not really overthinking it. I'm just like placing the images and trying different things. And most of the time, that's how I design my tattoos. Obviously, there's some principles behind that are in the back of my mind, in my subconscious already, that I always kind of tend to use when I'm creating these images, but it's also very intuitive. And then the second way that I do it sometimes is that I create a thumbnail. So, I'll draw the body part very small, and I draw like a very simple layout of how I want the design to be. The only thing about that one is that when you do a thumbnail, now your images you have to accommodate the images to the thumbnail. Sometimes it can be a little limiting, because thumbnail works better for like when you're actually drawing the design, because you can actually create the thumbnail. But if you're using different images, you're putting them together using Photoshop or Procreate or whatever, the thumbnail method can become a little limiting. So a lot of the times I just like grab a bunch of images, I look at the ones that I like the best, try them out, see what works, and that's that. Now, always when I'm creating a design, I have a main element, which is usually what the person wants to get, which is, let's call it the main character, right? Like the protagonist, right? Protagonist, the main character, the protagonist of the movie, right? And then I'll also look for supporting elements that make the idea stronger, right? So let's say, like in this case, this is a good case. Let's see here. So this right here is a good example. So what is the main character here? Obviously, the main character is the dragon, right? The dragon, you found a heart or whatever. So what would be the elements, the supporting elements that make the idea of the dragon stronger? Well, the background in this case, right? The environment in which the dragon is at. Maybe these are separate images. Maybe he found the dragon with the heart, but the background was something different. So he used the background, he or she used the background to support the fact that, the dragon is in nature, whatever it may be. Or, this is another idea, right? So, this person obviously the main element in this case is the girl, right? You know, she's the main character. She's the one that's standing out the most. So, but also the concept is like LA style, that sort of gangster hustle. So, you know, he uses different elements that support the idea. What are the elements? Well, he gave her the clown face. I think this is, I'm not sure if this is a lady who designed this or not, but and then, you know, there's the graffiti that gives it that sort of street style, and then there's the fence, and you have the car in the back, and you have the gas station in the back, and the chains and all these things. So these are all elements that are supporting the main idea. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by having like a main thing and then elements that support the idea. So let's look at another example here. So this one, right? This one here, I think the main idea is obviously the little girl. She's a geisha. But it also has the Japanese theme. So what does he do? He or she finds different elements that support the idea. So you see how there is a pattern here with all these artists, even though they're doing it differently and they're making different choices, they're all sort of doing the same thing, you know? So, you know, he found the dragon head or the food dog head. I'm not sure if that's a food dog or a dragon or whatever it is. And then there's the house. So it's all sort of creating a story, right? All these elements are being put together. Same as here, you know, there is, I think here the main idea is just like nature and the animals. I'm sure this client, what they wanted was the specific animals. And then he found different elements that help the whole thing come together, right?
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the class. If you made it this far, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and you hit the bell button, as I will be dropping the next parts to this series in the following days. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next video.